stories about the church. People have come up and spent 3 to 5 minutes or longer sharing stories about their memories of the church. So this isn't going to sound very much like a sermon today. This is my chance to share some of my memories of Olive Branch Christian Church. And in no order, by the way. It's been some 7 or 8 years ago that our regional minister, Rick Spliff, came to me and shared that he was taking 15 names to a congregation here in Indianapolis. He said that the church had been through a tough time lately and that there was a lot of pain and anxiety and some major financial trouble. Some of it was from previous decisions, and some of it had just been the accumulation over the years of things. Further, he shared with me this particular church had some unique things that they observed, like the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance during worship. But he told me, he said, if you can accept the call of this church and you can do that, I will tell the leadership, even though they're getting 15 names, that they should call you as a pastor. And I think Mike was the chair of that committee. I responded to him and said, if that's your desire, that's what I'll do. And so, not too long after that, the phone was called me, and I accepted the call. Rick also let me know that, although this was not the norm for him, that if I had any issues, because I might well have some, that if I called the office and said, the secretary would get me right through to him. I wasn't sure what that meant, but later I would. Anyway, the church called me for an interview, and if I remember, I only had 1 negative vote. And the 1 negative vote actually wasn't because they didn't want me to be the minister, it was because they didn't think they could finance a full-time minister. That person actually has become one of my major supporters in my ministry. So I was called to be the minister of Olive Branch Christian Church. And Rick Spliff was right. The first year I was here, I often wondered, what in the world have I gotten myself into? This congregation had a lot of pain, a lot of anger, a lot of financial issues, and all those things made the anxiety level really high. But through hard work of the church leadership, prayer and support of friends, and the church, we survived through those times and actually thrived for about 7 or 8 years. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you it's all been rainbows and roses and unicorns, because it hasn't. We experienced some really tough edges. However, when I look at all the things this church has done in the years I have been your minister, it is amazing to me. Put it another way, this church has not just talked the talk, it has walked the walk. Now, I assume you're observant enough to understand that this church has changed a lot since the time of my birth back in 1951, and certainly in the time some of you have been born prior to that. The fact is, not only has this church changed, but all churches have changed, and they've changed dramatically. While it's hard to handle change, we know from science that things must change, or they die. But we here at Olive Branch, the leadership and the members, have worked hard to extend that ministry as long as we possibly can. Trust me when I say the leadership of this church has spent endless hours working hard to make sure this was a place of worship, a place of caring, and a place of hope for this neighborhood here on the south side of Indianapolis. And if you ask me, I think we've done a wonderful job. We live in an increasingly tribal world where the division between haves and have-nots increase every day, where people are judged harshly for who they are and how they believe. It's true. I won't make comparisons because of time limitations here, but all you have to do is watch the news, be involved in conversations, or be on the street. You'll know this is real. The world will become a divisive place. But I think it says something about the people of faith, especially here at Olive Branch Christian Church, when we have been able to be merciful and loving and caring in this divisive world. My belief is that Olive Branch has grown by leaps and bounds in a way of living by Christ. I believe all along this has been God's call to humanity, and for most of the time I have been your senior minister. I think that's what the people of Olive Branch Christian Church has done, has responded to this call. So what I really want to do this morning is highlight a few things that have happened in Olive Branch Christian Church's life while I've been here, and let you know that the social justice and the hope and the mission-oriented body of this church has done a great job, and I'm very proud. First thing is, although finances for any church are always difficult, we actually had a balanced budget for about 5.5 years. Now, I mentioned when I came here, that was not the case. The church was in the red, deep in the red. And it was kind of no wonder everybody was concerned, had anxiety, right? The budget was so crippling that it kept us from really doing our mission. Well, painstakingly, Jim Land, George Lyman, Rosie Lewis, Tim Birchman, Toby Copian gave leadership to figure out how to cut the budget to make it function. Among those cuts were to stop renting a water heater and a water cooler, ending monthly donations to several charities, including cutting out our monthly budget item to the bigger church, ending a contract with a computer company for a program which had been billing us monthly that we hadn't actually used for several years. And then as senior minister, with conversations with our region, I stepped outside the box and did something that disciple ministers don't do very much. I took on a double yoke. I had 2 churches I was pastoring. That way they could share my salary and alleviate the burden for both churches. In fact, since the time I've been here, even though it is in my contract, I have not taken facsimile expenditures. In other words, I have not charged you for my automobile expenses or other things that I have bought as a general rule. And much to the chagrin of my regional minister, I seldom take vacation. In fact, he chastised me in a meeting one day, take your vacation. But the vacation I had coming has not been used very much. When you put those things all together, it makes a big economic impact on how this church has been able to go. And not only for me, but my administrative assistant, Elizabeth, and me in my office, don't have our heat and air conditioning on. So the only time it's on is when we walk in there. We have little heaters that Tim brought in so we have a little heat. And we have wind air conditioners we flip on when we're in there. There's sometimes it's really hot in the office and sometimes it's really cold in the office. But we sucked it up and did that anyhow. Roughly, I don't know if anybody, Jim may have already done this math in his head, but roughly we saved the church about $40,000 a year when we went through all those different things that we were working in the budget, which just for the last 3 years alone means $120,000. However, with those lowered budget items, it still was a struggle to pay our bills. And pretty much any church you go to, they're saying the same thing. Well, enough for money. Let's celebrate some of the things that we have done beyond the budget work that have been great for us. I remember about the second month I was here, I told George and Rosie that we were going to serve a meal at the Ronald McDonald House. We were going to do it one time. They didn't want to go back. They didn't have to, but we were going to do it one time, come hills or high water. We were there about half an hour, and George walked over to me and said, "Sign us up." And we've been there ever since. We've been serving a meal the first Wednesday of each month at the Ronald McDonald House at Riley Children's Hospital. As well, we have did their barbecue at the Wild Midwest Clay and Barbecue that they have each year as a fundraiser. We are the only folks, including their paid staff, who've been on the circle, the pop tab drop in the circle with Ronald and sometimes the Colts cheerleaders and the mayor and other people. And we also have hosted their holiday open house at Christmas time. Plus the house honored us with a banquet and a plaque, and they've shared canned goods with us on a regular basis to help us with our food pantry. And beyond that, we have provoked other churches, disciple churches, to do the same thing. So now there are actually 4 other disciple churches doing the same thing each month. I think that's a great success and a great mission we have had. Speaking of the food pantry, when I became your minister, I can remember them saying, "Oh, we have a food pantry." And I went to find it, and I couldn't find it. And then someone pointed out to me, it's underneath the stairwell. And it literally was underneath the stairwell. It was really hard to access that small area. Soon, we expanded that to use a large space that was unused in the basement. And on food pantry days, we actually use a whole complete other room to have what we call fresh items. In other words, perishable items. If I recall correctly, when I came here, we were serving 15 to 20 families a month, and now we serve well over 100. You know what that number is, Elizabeth, by chance? Like 225?
Per month?
Yeah.
For families, you're looking at about 100 to 120.
About 100 to 120. So we've really increased that. And it's been fully funded. We've had partners that we've accepted since I have been there, Leaders Food Bank, Midwest Food Bank, some other churches in the neighborhood, and some individuals. Only designated funds have went to supply the food pantry. No longer is it a budgeted item that we have taken from our offering on Sunday. Another highlight has been the Anticipation Day meal. One of the great things that happened is the day before Easter, which we call Anticipation Saturday, we have a free meal. We have served as many as 650, but probably I don't think any less than about 400, Rosa, right?
Yeah.
So we've offered a free meal to folks here in the neighborhood who can come and sit. And I noticed this year a lot more people were eating in instead of taking meals out with us. We've become a place where people can come and sit and fellowship with one another, get out of the cold and the heat, and build relationships. We also decided we would have some kind of a community event in the summertime. We found out really quickly that the heat was too oppressive to do that outside, so we switched it to the fall, and we named it the Boo Bash. And Joan and Jessica Hampton's been heading that up for us. It's been great to see all the children in the neighborhood, where they attend here or not, come in on that day dressed in costumes, and eating hot dogs and getting their candles. And of course, the Thanksgiving meal, which has been going longer than any other established Thanksgiving meal in Indianapolis, where we serve people each Thanksgiving day. We've served as many as 1,750 people during that time. It's a lot of work, I can tell you. The folks that have been instrumental in that have put forth a lot of effort. We used to fund all that through our own offerings as well. But for the last 4 years, we've been able to obtain outside sources to do that, and so we've not had to affect our budget again. So thanks God for allowing us to do that. Also thank that family for allowing us to continue on. Olive Branch Christian Church has supported student ministers since I've arrived. I don't think they ever had any student ministers prior to my arrival, but since I've come on board, we've had 4 student ministers who have helped this church along: Alicia, Luana, Cindy, and Nick. And their capacity has been really fulfilling. I've given them great liberty to explore ministry, and they all are now ordained ministers in Christian Church, disciples of Christ. Also, as I look on the wall of fame in the parlor and look at all the former ministers, there's one thing I don't see. Female ministers. No pictures. So our female student ministers were the first female ministers this congregation had ever experienced. And I have to tell you the truth, they loved it. Much more than they loved me and Nick. And not only during this period did the church have their first female minister, they had their first minister of color. And I have to tell you, for a congregation, that's a huge story. We also have been able to expand the staff, considering how few and how little we have to expand with, but we nonetheless have. Our associate minister, Nick Orange, actually receives no salary. Our minister of calling basically receives no salary. Elwin Parks, we pay him to be the organist, but that's pretty much it for doing what he does, calling on our shut-ins. And my salary was not brought back up to where it should be when I came back after seminary closed, so I get about a third of what I should probably be making being the senior minister of a church. Also, we have asked the elders to take on added responsibility. They have done so wholeheartedly, visiting and doing the work that biblically calls them to be done, and done it well. They have been good stewards of their time. We also, in cooperation with James A. Garfield School 31, have initiated an urban garden, complete with chickens. We help them start that, where the children can learn how to work, produce fresh fruit, and learn to care for living things. Plus, we have provided uniforms, underclothing, and school supplies. And again, almost all of that has come from other things outside of our normal funding. Speaking of outside our normal funding, I got to tell you right now that George Lyman and myself drink a lot of coffee. You might be asking yourself, why? Well, I bring it up because most of the ministries we have had since I've been here at least are funded from outside sources, not necessarily connected to this church, not necessarily connected to our denomination. I don't even know if they're Christians. So, I'm sorry about your kidneys, George, for all the coffee you've had to drink over the years, but thanks for your hard work. Now, I also need to thank Rosie and Joan and Pat and Tim and his whole family, Toby, both Marys, Ellen, and no doubt I've left some people out, but all of you have come and helped in so many things like the corn dog stand, the Train the Frontier shows, the many fundraisers we have done to allow us to continue our meaningful ministries. And of course, I would be remiss if I did not thank Ray Skillman Auto Group and Nick and Ann and Joy and Gary and Bud for all the funds they have sent our way to allow our ministries to continue. I have encouraged and taught our folks here that small gifts matter too. In fact, they're some of the most meaningful gifts you can do in ministry, the small ones. For example, bringing in shampoos, soaps from hotel stays, newer used towels, delivering extra food for meals, old cell phones, shoes, clothing, and so much more have helped out Horizon House and Wheeler Mission for the Homeless, the Exodus Project, the Julian Center. Thank you all who have contributed to those things. The Fuller Center for Housing and Habitat for Humanity has been a partner with Olive Branch Christian Church for a long time. If you look in the hallway in the narthex, you'll see some plaques that Habitat has awarded the church over the years. We have done everything from providing meals for the workforce to landscaping to doing panel bills to remodeling homes. The largest effort was about 3 years ago over Fountain Square, where we built 6 new homes and rehabbed 15 homes on Churchman Street, St. Paul, and St. Peter. That still cracks me up that these churches were doing this on St. Paul, St. Peter. Also at Thanksgiving and Christmas, besides what we do, we have partnered with Good Samaritans to provide clothing, toy, and food to some 2,000 families. I have to be the person who coordinates the food each year, but many of you have come and helped with that effort to provide things for folks in need. In fact, they have shared with us from their good fortune in providing food for our pantry, toys for our Christmas giveaway, and some Bibles. In fact, I think 3 years ago maybe, George took about 3 truckloads of skids of food here to the church for our food. Our own Christmas giveaway, where we give away toys and clothing, has been long a strong point for our congregations. We help young people. Our volunteers, as I came on board, we kind of fine-tuned things so it's much easier to do now. We provide people to come into the sanctuary. We already have everything bagged for them and able to provide new toys for the children and during food pantry time. Long ago, in a galaxy far away, my family began a mission because of the love of my mother for other people. At the time, I was pastor of a church in Illinois, in Hoopeston, Illinois specifically, and I'd taken a mission group to Appalachia, down to Dora Ross's place. My mom wanted to know what it was that her youngest son was doing, so she asked my sister if she would take her down there so she could see what Dora was doing down in Beattyville, Kentucky. One was, and a lot of things have happened because of that. One was a lot of churches and a lot of people started traveling to eastern Kentucky to do mission work. And actually, since that time, our group in Appalachia from the Disciples of Christ Christian Church has adopted Dora's mission as a disciple mission point. Another thing that happened through passing on missions was to do projects to raise funds for help people here at home and far away. And of course, the most outstanding is the corn dog stand, where we sell about 4,000 corn. I don't know how many corn dogs. I know I don't want another corn dog when the fair's over during that. These funds have allowed us to do a whole bunch of things. Things like send items to active military overseas, purchase food for food pantries, help with emergency needs, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, and earthquakes, to help orphanages in South America, help migrant workers here in Indiana purchase school supplies, just to name a few. And so, Joy and Gary, thank you for your leadership through passing on missions since my mom has passed over these years that we've been able to do these things, and include the folks here in Olive Branch in doing that. When Nick came on as my associate minister, he said, "Hey Brooks, I'd like to learn how to write a grant." I go, "Okay, that's what you want to do? We'll do one." So he wanted to write a grant, and we decided that what we would do is try to bolster our Sunday school. And so Nick wrote a grant, and we were able to be awarded that grant, and along with the help of Lily and Kyla and Toby and Amy. Our Sunday school was really revitalized and changed dramatically. It was more modernized with a lot of things. Nick, you want to say something about it? Go ahead.
It's always such a joy working with you.
So it's been enabled us to be an exciting place for children to learn, not only our own children, but we actually have a church that meets in our basement at the same time we're worshiping, and they have children, and they go to our Sunday school. So we've been able to reach beyond that. And also each year, Mary Massey has worked with Vacation Bible School to make it a neighborhood place to be. And some of the things they have built downstairs have been amazing to me. I didn't know we were that artistic, but evidently we are. We've also been very involved ecumenically. Olive Branch continues to be on the cutting edge of working with others, I think. Annually, our Lenten service we share with 3 United Church of Christ, 1 American Baptist, and 2 other disciple churches that hold Wednesday services. Myself, I stand on the Regional Commission for Unity and Mission, as well as the coordinator for Greater Indianapolis Crop Hunger Walk. Plus, I'm the person who does communications for the Greater Indianapolis Disciples, Ministers, and Congregations. I'm proud to announce today, because now I've been asked and accepted the responsibility, I will be the chairperson for the mission portion of the 2017 General Assembly here in Indianapolis next July. I've already done that role once, and I've done the regional as well. In fact, just a few weeks ago, the Spring Youth Assembly for Indiana was here, and I was the one that set up the work for them as well. We also have folks who stand on boards and commissions inside the church that work outside those things. Each year, several groups come in Indianapolis to do volunteer experience for what I call urban immersion mission trips. They come from as far as California, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, New York, as well as here in Indiana. And over the years that I have been here at your church, we have been the go-to people for them, and we have helped organize their overnight sleeping, their meals, their education, urban ministry, and their volunteer experiences. In fact, we are kind of the go-to guys and gals for social justice here in Indianapolis, I think. My phone rings a lot asking us to handle mission items for groups that are connected with the disciples who are not connected with the disciples. We have colleges that contact us. They have no connection whatsoever with the disciples. They want to come here. Now, those of you who are around me very much, who are regular attenders here, know that I am really big on volunteer experiences. And so I have really pushed my folks here at Olive Branch to be involved in the community, the state, the nation, and the world. And several people have taken that so much to heart that it's really become part of their life. We have people who volunteer weekly at other agencies. We have people who have been on mission trips to other nations. We have people who work in food pantries and homeless shelters, and the list goes on and on. I won't mention all those names, but you know who you are, and I thank you for being part of that bigger ministry to the church. Another thing that has been really helpful for me is that we've been able to lower the anxiety level. Because when I came here, you could cut the anxiety with a knife. It was pretty thick. But it's significantly lowered since the time that I have been your minister. I'm not saying it doesn't exist at all, but it's been pretty low. Even in these times that we've been discussing since November that we were going to close the church, it's been pretty low. Some of it's because I've kind of pushed you guys to roll your sleeves up, keep you busy. When you're busy, you don't have time for anxiety. But I think part of it is too is you have turned over your cares and your fears to God. The church is changing. As you know, I'm working on my doctorate degree, and I've spent an enormous amount of time researching and reading. And here's a few things that I have learned. There are about 4,000 churches a year across the United States that are closing their doors. Howard Bowers was here a couple weeks ago. He shared with me that about 10% of disciple churches close their doors each year. Only 17% of millennials, that's young adults, are involved in institutional church, in finance, and attendance nationwide, and that continues to be less and less. It's abundantly clear that the church is changing. You don't have to worry, folks. The church has changed before. Think about the first and second temple Judaism and how Jesus changed it. Or when the church became the institution of the state when Constantine made that decree. Or the Protestant Reformation, or the Great Awakening. All of these were huge changes for the church. Life-altering to those who have been loyal to the way the church has been. Yet through all of them, God has been present still. God is still present here today. While we're going through a major change, our life is going to be different after this afternoon. God is still here with us. Maybe not the way we conjure up in our mind, but God is still here as God desires to be. So existing churches, churches about to end, churches like Olive Branch who worship for their final time, they need to know that change is going to happen. And change is coming, and that God still has undiscovered ways for us to do God's work. We need to be faithful to live out and spread the good news of Jesus Christ. And so this day I want to send my blessings to all of you who search for a new church home. As you share your talents with others beyond Olive Branch Christian Church, as you move forward in an undying faith for God. I have been blessed by you. This neighborhood has been blessed by you. The larger church has been blessed by you. And you have been blessed by being part of Olive Branch Christian Church and part of this ministry. May God always be with you. This is the word of God for the people of God.
Praise be to God.